All right, we're going to be looking at verbs. This one's going to be a bigger topic. It's going to take a little bit longer to kind of get through, but I'm just going to do as thorough of a job as I can and do my best to keep it as short as I can at the same time, I guess. So we're just going to look really quickly at the attributes of verbs, and you'll see the grammar numbers are listed right above there, 142 to 149, kind of walks you through the various attributes of verbs. So we know that in English, we have two voices, active and passive, and the same goes for Latin. We have mood, which is an indicative, making a statement, a subjunctive mood makes a wish, and an imperative mood makes a command. And again, it's the same in Latin. We have the same mood. And then we also have tense. There are 6 tenses in Latin. In English, there are 12. And you'll see that I have just these little arrows to 2 stages. This is not my idea. I'm borrowing from somebody else who mentioned stages. And I liked this idea. It's something that stuck with me. There are 6 tenses, as I said, and so you find that there are 3 tenses or 3 voices that are going to be used on the present stage. And so this is, most of the time it's just indicative mood. The kids will learn subjunctive as we go, but for this purpose, I'm just kind of capturing most of what you're going to see in Challenge A, indicative mood and active voice. And so again, as I was saying, there are basically 3 speakers, and each speaker has a job or lines with which they can say things, and they have to follow their script. And so we see that there is a present on the present stage. The 3 speakers are the present, imperfect, and future. And I have them listed down here as well. This is just a poster I created for myself. And so you can see here, you've got the present tense, in which there are 3 ways that we can say things in Henley Latin as he lays out for us. You would say I verb, I am verbing, okay, or I do verb, okay, and that's in the present tense. When we get to our imperfect tense, then we can say things as I was or were verbing, okay? And then in the future, we have our final speaker, and this one speaks in the future tense of I shall or will verb, and you'll find that shall is used in the first person singular, and first person plural is when they put in shall. And it's a little bit old school in the sense that we don't usually use the word shall, but they do in the exercises, so you'll see that in the answer key typically. So that just hits one, the 2 stages in essence. There is the present stage, in which you have 3 tenses, and you have a perfect stage with 3 other tenses and 3 other ways that speakers can speak in the on the perfect stage. I also want to bring your attention to, in the present stage, which is currently where we will be working for the next few weeks in Latin, you'll notice that the present stage is formed on the second principal part. You'll also notice that the perfect stage is formed on the third principal part. What in the heck does that mean? Well, in Latin, there are generally 4 principal parts of a verb. Now, that's of regular verbs. There are other verbs that will only have 3 principal parts, but for this purpose, I'm just going to explain the 4, and then I'll kind of show you how you can determine where there are, a difference in principal parts. So it starts off and we have laudo, and we're using laud as the stem here. And so we show laudo means I praise. It's a first person singular, present, indicative, active. Okay, so it is hitting, like person, it's first, number is singular. It tells us the tense, and it tells us mood and voice, okay? And then you get to the second principal part, which I just explained is formed, the present stage is formed off of the second principal part. So this one here, the second principal part, is going to be very important for our purposes right now as we learn the present stage and the tenses that accompany it. So we see laudare, and then we see it means to praise, okay? And so it tells you this is a present infinitive active. And infinitive, we know in English, is a to plus a verb. And so that's why this is translated as to praise, okay? And then we'll also see that I have this big arrow this big red arrow that comes off the second principal part, and it walks you into the fact that this is the present stem, and it is found by dropping the ending of the present infinitive active. And so we see loud, and then we see this RA ending. And if you drop that RA ending for every verb, its second principal part, if you drop that piece, you will see that we have our stem, laud, and this is where meaning is kept in terms of that means praise. And then we're able to form and to conjugate verbs with different endings here to influence how this word will be used in a sentence and what it will mean. And so I'll come back to that. I'm going to go a little bit further into that in just a minute. Then we come down here to laudawi, okay, and the V always gets the W kind of sound. Laudawi means I praised. We notice it's past tense here. I have praised. It's first person singular. Sorry, I cut that off. Singular perfect indicative active. Perfect is telling us the stage on which this is going to be working. And so we said that the third principal part, it forms the perfect stage. And so that's where we get these other speakers who have set lines that they're allowed to say and how they are to say them, okay? And so I'll make another video that goes into perfect stage once we are actually tackling that particular stage, but I just wanted to show you that. I like to have an overview of where we're going. Henley is on like a need to know basis, and he doesn't tell us anything in the broad spectrum. It's like, here it is, this is what you need to know for right now in order to do this exercise. And that's all well and fine, but I'm a little bit of a bigger picture kind of girl, and I need to kind of see a little bit of a map of where I'm going. I value that. All right, so then you'll see here another box around this with an arrow that then walks you over to the verbs that then form the perfect stage, right? The third principal part, that awi ending, is dropped. The stem is then loud again. And then we have different endings that we'll go over later that are added in order to formulate meaning in sentences for our verbs using the perfect stage. All right, gonna come back. We've covered the first principal part, the second principal part, the third principal part. And now the fourth principal part is laudatus, and it means having been praised. It's the perfect participle passive was what this one is considered, the fourth principal part, and it's used with forms of the verb se to form the perfect stage tenses. So again, what you see is these are our present stage tenses, but we are primarily using this in order to build all of our conjugate all of our verbs. And then you'll find these last two are related to the perfect stage, and this one is used to formulate all of the conjugations on the perfect stage and that tense as well. Then you're going to come down, and we're just going to look at these personal signs. You know, I'm going to rotate this way and give us a wide look here. These are the personal ending signs in the active voice. So we have singular and plural and number. So these endings, when they are tacked on to a verb, they're going to tell you person and number. So we have in first person, you can tack on O or M, and it is laid out for us as to what that is. Or an S would be a second person, meaning you. Okay, third person, singular, is a T ending, he, she, or it. You'll notice you will only have one of these. So these are singular letters that tell us these are singular endings. And it's an I, you, singular, meaning one person, or he, she, it. When you come down to the plural, first person, the ending that is added to verbs is mus, meaning we. Tis is you, plural. In Texas, they'd say y'all. I love that word. And then the NT ending here is a third person, and it means they. And some of these we are familiar with. We just may not quite recognize that we're familiar with these, and I am going to get to that in just a second. So I'm going to move up now. I'm going to move away from my little chart that I have here, and I'm going to try not to make you dizzy. Come up here to the board, and I've got, let's see, the four principal parts listed here. I've got laudo, the first principal part, laudare, second principal part, laudawi, laudatus. Okay, and these are considered, sorry, got a little dry throat today. This is like what they would call the model verbs. And oh, if I had my blue book, you will find those on the verbs in the verbs section of the grammar book. Okay. And I also want to draw your attention to the fact that in your purple book, it'll show things like this. It'll just say laudo, number 1, transitive. So the number 1 tells you that's the conjugation. We're in the first conjugation right now. And it's transitive, meaning it will take an object with the word laudo, okay, or any form of that verb. So they also tell you that anytime they don't give you other endings, all 4 principal parts, it's because it follows this model. Okay, so it means that it would be laudo, laudari, laudavi, laudatus. And any words that are not given all 4 principal parts, it's because all they're simply doing is adding these endings to the word, and it forms just like laudo does. You'll also see words in the purple book where it lists all their principal parts. And you go, well, why do they give me those but not those? And it's because this one is different. Anytime they give you the principal parts, they are waving a flag at you that says, hey, pay attention because one of these or 2 of these are different. And so we can see do, laudo, those are the same. We have the are ending, awi, we do not have the awi here, but we have the atus added here. Okay, and so we can tell then that we need to memorize, and you must memorize all 4 principal parts no matter what. Okay, these become easy if we just memorize o, ari, awi, atus. Then I can look at laudo and I know all 4 principal parts. And I know that simply because I'm familiar with this. I've been doing Latin for a little while with my kids. So it's not expected if you're if this is your first year as a parent or a director doing this, this isn't going to be something that you're going to know, and it takes time to build. But if you're making flashcards, I always tell my students, make your flashcards with all 4 principal parts on the front of the card so that as you are studying, you are saying all 4 parts. And so I'll jump over here really quickly to give you that, okay? That's the front of my flashcard. That's the back of my flashcard. It's a first conjugation and it's transitive. Okay, and then I just have the endings here that we already went through, and I just wanted to show you some of the words we've already been given were laudo. Okay, and so we knew that it was I praise because they told us that. Well, now we can see that O ending and see, oh, that is an O ending, and it is a singular first person, and it translates to I. Okay, we also had words like laudat or wanet. And again, you have a singular letter T that was added, okay, just like this one, knowing that makes it a 3rd person singular, he, she, or it that I would use in translating. And then down here, I also had a few, okiderant, laudant, and wenerant, okay, and we see the NT. And you'll also notice multiple letters, okay, so it's a plural form. These are singular letters that build the singular. We have multiple letters here that give us our plural endings for our personal ending signs on our verbs. And then I also wanted to show you, just kind of in a colorful form, this is what we're working on this week as the kids are entering week 13. I just wrapped week 12 in class. Kids are moving into week 13 for their work, and so they're working with the present system here. Present, first conjugation, okay? So again, on our stage, we have 3 speakers, the present, the imperfect, and the future, which I did not write out future because I don't have enough space on my board. What we notice about this is we see this A that runs through this. You'll also see, oh, look, the imperfect has the A as well. And if you look at the future, though I don't have it written, the A continues all the way through. And so we affectionately call this the A first conjugation. And it simply tells you that an A will be added in here. And that's kind of my reference to knowing, oh, I'm in the present tense because there's only an A and personal ending signs here. And so our kids, if you've been part of CC, our kids memorized these endings a long time ago in foundations. OST, must-isn't, right? We had this little chant that the kids learned. And so now we start to put this into practice. They start to understand the why of why they learned this, right? So you can see the O ending translates to the I because that's our personal sign and that's what it means, right? And it means then I praise. And we want to remember there's 3 ways to translate in the present tense. I praise, I am praising, I do praise. So then when you're asked to write this out fully with 3 translations, that's how you're going to do that. You'll put you praise, you are praising, you do praise, he, she, it praises, he is praising, he does praise. Okay, and you'll see again on number 162 in the grammar book, it walks you through these translations. It shows you how it is translated. And so it's very helpful, very helpful. Now, I'm just going to do a quick introduction to the imperfect because I'm wanting to help you see the difference between the two. And you'll start to notice here that there's something a little bit different. I'm going to scroll in just a little bit so we can look at least the bottom here. We have the A that goes through, but you'll notice another color was added here. We had blue, pink, and red. They've got blue, pink, red, but now there's this added thing right here that runs through this ba. Okay, that's an indicator of the imperfect tense. Anytime you see this BA that runs through, that is your tense marker, that it's imperfect. And then you have your personal signs added, which tell you singular and plural, and it also tells you person, right? First, second, or third. Okay, so let me just see, is there anything else I need to tell you about? Not really. You'll also then see, okay, this ba, let me hit really quickly. When that's added, it's now going to change your verb to a was or a were. And it's a verb that's a present participle verb with an added ing. So it would be something like laudabam, I was praising. Okay, I know I'm on the perfect stage because, you know, I'm in the first conjugation because I see that A. I know that this tense marker tells me it's imperfect, and that tense of imperfect tells me was or were plus a verb ing. So I was praising, you were praising, he, she, it was praising. Okay, and then when you get to the future tense, you'll find that instead of the BA, the only change now is a BI. And that's indicative of the future tense. And so again, that tense marker will change in the future tense to a BI, and things get translated as a shall or a will plus the verb. So it would be something like, if I'm talking in the future, and it would be lauda bim or lauda, let me think really quick. That's lauda bow actually, because the first one in the future tense is a bow, then it turns into the BI. That's the only difference. So let's say I'm thinking second person future, lauda, it will look like lauda bis, B-I-S, and I would translate it as you will praise. Okay, so the future tense is just a little bit different. All right, but it just changes really with the tense marker. Let's see, final little notes here. Grammar numbers 142 to 146 are really important. Model verbs that I mentioned earlier, these here that show you the 4 principal parts of the first conjugation, you will also find that they model for you the second conjugation, third conjugation, and fourth conjugation. It's on the top of page 43 in your blue grammar book. Okay, and I think that just about wraps it in terms of getting a sense of where we're going with all of these verbs as we work on the present stage.